Hello, I am Michael Whitehouse. This is the first ever Conference21 weekly roundtable where I gather some of our fantastic speakers from Conference21 to talk about a variety of different topics in and around and sometimes outside of their expertise. This is a bit of an experiment, so I think for some of our guests, it's their first time on StreamYard at all. This is certainly my first time hosting a panel discussion on StreamYard. So some of the stuff I know how to do, such as putting our Conference21 website on the screen, which you can go there and get your Conference21 tickets, which is going to be February 20th and 21st, and see these fine folks as well as 28 other awesome speakers. But for the rest of this, we're kind of winging it, figuring it out, feeling out the format. So bear with us. This show is free, so if you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. So our panelists today are Rick Cram, Mike Savage, and Nancy Butler. Each of them has brought in a topic that they're going to be discussing. And so they'll kind of lead that discussion or lead that introduction to the topic, and then we'll all discuss it in sort of a free-flowing format and kind of see where things go. We might stay on topic, we might wander off to other topics. People can comment and ask questions and all that. And I'll see the comments if they have given StreamYard permission, and otherwise we'll see the comments afterwards, and then they won't be involved in the conversation. So that's enough introduction, I think. Everyone knows what's going on. Let's quickly go around the table and everyone give like a 1-minute introduction of who you are, what you do, what makes you awesome. Let's kind of go clockwise from me. So Rick, tell the good folks who you are and what you do.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's great to be here, and hello, everybody. I'm a consultant, facilitator, and strategist who equips you and your teams to plan to be your best as you navigate change. Of course, during this time, we're seeing unprecedented change and challenges, and I think a closer look for all of us at how change has a unique way of compromising our ability to handle it, ranging from the emotional reactions, the ongoing long-term high levels of cortisol affects us with stress. And so what I do is, based on a career of focusing on this, I found that the people who plan to be their best as they navigate change and challenges are the most successful. And we'll talk a little bit about that through the course of this.
Very good. That's one of those, like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail sort of things?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. In fact, I like quotes, and that one is right on.
That's a good one. All right. Nancy, tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
I have been an entrepreneur for 40 years, very successful, built a business to about 200 million in assets under management and then sold it. Now I coach businesses all over the country, all different kinds of businesses in all different industries. I'm a national speaker. For the last 3 years, I'm also a delegate to the United Nations for the Commission on the Status of Women. And what we're going to be talking about today is how to anchor your clients to you with all the competition that's out there, how to make you be the business of choice or the company of choice.
That's a big thing, especially now where everyone's going online. Suddenly geography doesn't matter anymore. And now You're not competing in your town, you're competing with the world. So great.
Yes, you are.
And Mike.
I am delighted to be here with this group. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me. My name is Mike Savage. I am a speaker. I'm a business coach. I am a serial entrepreneur and investor. And, I guess my story stems from the fact that over the last 30 years, I've started and built 8 different businesses. Some of them, have been wins and losses, highs and lows, and ups and downs. Largest company sold about $250 million worth of goods. The company grew to 25 million and 50 employees. And I had an epiphany and a transition in my life a few years back. And I said, what do I really love and what do I want to do? And I think I was put on the earth to be a teacher. And so I've evolved into this new world and in my new life. And I basically help entrepreneurs on the journey of going through this roller coaster of starting, running, and growing a business. And today I believe that my topic is in the area of mindset and the power of mindset and how it influences our decisions as entrepreneurs. So super excited to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, what I have when I put in the notes is mindset of the entrepreneur and battling through head trash.
Okay, so that's it.
So that is that's the topic you gave me. What you talk about is up to you. Speaking of topics, our first topic here. Let's see if can I put that in the Chiron there? I can. Look at that. So our first topic,
Wow.
Nancy is leading, is anchoring your clients to you. How to be the company of choice. See, isn't this fancy? That's what I got for $50 a month on StreamYard. Is all these tools. So Nancy's gonna kind of talk for 3 to 5 minutes, introduce the topic, and then we're all gonna pitch in and have a little free for all for 5-10 minutes or so. That's the idea. So Nancy, take it away.
Okay, so the first thought is, if your competition had exactly the same product, same price, and same service as you, what makes you stand out from all the competition? Why should they go to you instead of everyone else lined up next to you? And like Michael was saying earlier, now with everything going virtual, you may have a lot more competition than you ever had before. And what makes you different? Most people, when I ask, or most business owners, when I ask them that question, the first thing they say to me is, we provide the best service. Everyone knows we have the best service. But the problem is, all the businesses say that. That is not going to set you apart from everyone else. You have to do out of the box, above and beyond, something that makes you really stand out. Think about what you want your company to be known for. What is your current customer or client experience? And what do you do to go above and beyond? I'll give you a couple of examples. One of the businesses I was coaching was a florist. The first thing I did was I actually drove to their building and drove up as a customer. Now, keep in mind, this is a florist. So I would expect amazing landscaping. I would expect flowers everywhere. I would expect color and beauty. That is nothing like what I saw. It was, the place needed to be painted. There was a long walk from where you parked to where you actually got to the front door. And what you saw between those two spaces wasn't very good. Once I walked in the door, no one greeted me. I had to find my way around to get to the counter. So the first thing you want to do is walk into your building or your office as though you're the client and picture everything they're seeing. I did that in my own office once. I sat in the seats that my clients sat in to see what they were looking at when they were looking at me. And I'll be darned, I had a picture of my granddaughter in her Halloween elephant suit behind me. And I didn't realize that that's what they were staring at. So instead, I wanted them to stare at all of my certificates, all of my accomplishments. So that got replaced with certificates and other types of things. Some of the other examples, what we did in my practice and can work in a lot of businesses, when the client walked in, we actually took their coat and hung it up. When they left, we got their coat, we helped them on with it. We had a menu of services when they walked in the door. So when they were waiting to speak to someone or see someone, in the wintertime, they had a choice of all different coffees and teas and hot chocolate. We always had individually wrapped cookies. In the summertime, even in the winter when they left, we offered them to not only have it when they walked in, but to take it with them when they left for a nice ride home. And in the summer, it was cold refrigerated drinks. Who else does that stuff? You need to think about what's going to make you stand out. I had 1,200 clients when I sold my business. Every single one of their clients and their spouses got a birthday card every year for 25 years. And I had some clients say even their parents forgot it was their birthday and the only card they got was ours. How do you think that made our practice stand out? So think about your business, the type of business you have, what you can do to look different than everyone else. One more quick example, real estate business. There was this one real estate client that I had who actually advertised and got a rental truck. And if you hired them to buy or sell your house, they gave you free of charge a U-Haul for the weekend to move all your stuff. Who does that? So think about what you can offer that your competition is not offering that makes people really see you as standing out and someone that's over the top that really cares about your business and really helps you.
Yeah. So we had a couple of comments from. Yeah, it's about there. So we had a couple of comments from the public along this line. One is, of course, applies to websites too. So it's not just your office. It's go through your website and see what is their experience, what's missing. I've had those Conference21. I'll talk to someone, tell them all about it, and they'll be like, "I'm glad you told me that because I didn't see half that on the website." And I'm like, "Oh man, I need to update that." And then of course, one of my favorite expressions, "The cobbler has no shoes." Talking about like the florist with the horrible landscaping, definitely got to be on top of that sort of thing. But I toss it out to everyone else. Your thoughts on this and on differentiating yourself in these times.
Yeah, I can add my 2 cents. Everything Nancy says is so dialed in. I've been doing this for a long time, and when I work with entrepreneurs, I always ask them what their superpower is. What makes you unique and distinct? What's your unique strategic position in the marketplace? And no matter how you slice it, your business starts and you have a product or a service. There's nothing that anyone else sells. Even the oldest profession in the world was a service. But products and services. And when you look at that, the word that Nancy said, which is the scariest word in business, is commodity. And when you have a commodity and you don't differentiate, you don't have a chance. Now, there are companies out there that, I mow lawns and I mow lawns and I mow lawns. You know what is really cool? It's, when you have someone that does some work around your house, no matter what it may be, and they add something a little bit different, just a slight little change of something. And the one of the greatest examples I have is my wife and I love to travel, and we have 2 dogs, and we have a woman that comes to the house and takes care of the dogs and, comes 3 times a day and does a phenomenal job. When we're away, she will send us a collage of pictures of our 2 dogs. She will send us a video of the 2 dogs. And it's like, if you're a dog person, it's like, that those things are an extension of you. It's such a small thing, but it's so unique and it's so distinct, and it separates her from the pack. And we always recommend her business. So I'm 100% in favor of everything that Nancy said.
Excellent points, both of you. If I may, we have a lot in common. We've done a lot of marketing, and I remember when I learned early on in my career to tell every client that there are 3 pillars of effective branding and messaging. One is credibility inside the organization and out, relevance, and then that point of differentiation, which is actually, I think, where the fun happens. And here's a way to find out if your organization needs to really address that. There are actually 2 ways. The first one is to take a look at what the competition is doing and how they're expressing it. But go around within your organization, especially with the employees at every level, and ask this question: what is our brand, or what is our company? For example, there was one particular bank that I had as a client. They wanted to work on the branding of one particular division of it. And that's where one of the first questions that we ask in the exercise. And we found that the red flags were going up because virtually everyone we asked, from the branch managers up to the senior executives, had a different answer to that question. What is this bank? That's the red flag that you need to address that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and you talk about the commodities. So I do a lot of networking. So I met probably all of you and probably most of our speakers, actually. And so I go to a lot of BNI groups and all kinds of different networking groups. And the number of times I've met someone who it's, hi, I'm generic life insurance salesman, and I could tell you what they're about to say for the next 40 seconds. Have you considered your life insurance and how important it is to take care of the people who are important to you, and what would happen if you died, and who would pay your mortgage? Like the exact same. If they were all in the same company, then you'd say that they said good messaging, but they don't, because they're all just in the same industry. Versus the clients I'm working with, and And I asked her, why are you in life insurance? And she said, I believe life insurance is something everyone should have. And I don't even care if they buy it from me as long as they buy it from someone. And I said, that's your message. That's what people need to hear you say. You don't need to sell life insurance. 100 people are sharing that. You need to share, I want you to have it, and I don't care who you buy it from. That differentiates you and sets you apart. But it's tough. It's something. If you're doing something unique, that's easy. But if you're doing something like I've sold cars, I've sold life insurance, I've sold any number of things and with cars, especially when you go to a car dealership and you go to the car dealership in town A and the car dealership in town B, they could both be selling you literally the same car, same VIN number, because they're both going to get it from C. Right. So the difference is going to be the experience and how you treat people and how you make them feel. That's a huge part of it. Is beyond the product, how you make them feel in the process. And
it also says a lot for your reputation, because if you get the reputation of providing something that's out of the box and above and beyond what other people do, that's a great thing that people want and need, then you're going to get more clients because they're going to talk about it and you're going to get referrals from that.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely a huge thing, creating those connections, that experience.
After about, I would say after about 6 to 8 years in business, I never advertised, did any marketing, nothing. And I was booked 6 weeks in advance for years and years and years. So it's all about your reputation and getting the public to know who you are and how you do your job, so that even if they don't need what you offer right then, when they do need it, it's you they think of.
I think another aspect of that too is because you think that with your clients, someone's coming in, they're paying you, you want to give them good service, but you also need to remember it with your people you encounter in the community. You need to remember it with people who aren't clients. But my daughter's former dentist, so with everything going on, we didn't set a dental appointment for her for a year, and we're probably like, oh, when's the last time she went to the dentist? Oh, we should call and set that up. We called her up, set up an appointment, and they said, oh, she wasn't in here for too long, so she's inactive. So we closed her account. I'm like, well, they're reopening it. No, we're full. Sorry, you're out of luck, buddy. I'm like, well, shouldn't you have reminded us that? I mean, I know we should remember we should come in every 6 months, but as a service provider, shouldn't you be saying like, hey, don't forget to come back in, and not just be like, oh, looks like the White House has forgot. Boom, see you later.
But I'll tell you what something is beautiful about that. It's like all people do not deserve to be running companies. Okay. and it's great for those people that are A players to have the C players in business. Because it provides you that additional opportunity to stand out. So shame on them, but that is the reality of business. You can find someone that will give you, exceptional service, like Nancy was talking about with all the goodies and the differences and the uniqueness. And then you're going to find the clowns. That's just the way the world of entrepreneurship works. It is what it is. And it's great for those that are A players and overachievers that want to deliver an exceptional experience. So bring them on. Bring on those dentists. Love them.
And Michael, you didn't use the dentist's name, but had you used their name, can you imagine how many people are watching this that would have then known, I don't want to use that dentist? It's all about reputation and the way you come across to the public.
Yep. No, it's definitely true. Well, and you could use it. They are full, so there is that. But at some point, they won't be full. Things always come and go, and I'm sure someday I'll get a postcard in the mail from them or something, being like, "Hey, bring your daughter." And I'll call them up and say, "So let me tell you a story." But to what Mike was saying, when I sold cars, because it doesn't even take that much, especially in an industry like the car industry, to be above and beyond. When I sold cars, I would have what I called boomerang sales, because people always want, I want to check out the Honda. That's selling Volkswagens. I want to check out the Honda. I want to check out the Toyota, whatever. I didn't go above and beyond necessarily. I went through, when they came in, I'd offer them a drink. I'd have them sit down. I'd be generally nice and not pushy. And they'd say, "Oh, I want to go check out the Honda." Now, this was not local. This was elsewhere in Connecticut. So for anyone who knows me down here in Groton, it's not a dealership that I'm talking about, because our local Honda dealership is great. But they'd say, "Oh, I want to go check out the Hondas," and I'm like, "All right, cool. I'm here till 8." And they say, "Well, we might get our car at the Honda dealership," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Anyway, I'm here till 8 because I knew what experience they would have when they went down the street, and the number of people who would come back, practically like drag their way back to the dealership, and be like, "Please take me out of the market." They had such a bad experience. They got so beat up down the street by the aggressive, hard-hitting salespeople. And because they just had the experience with me where I said, "What do you need? This would match that if you would like. If you'd like to go forward, we can. If not, you don't have to. It's up to you. Okay, go look whatever you need to. I'm here if you need me." And then somebody beats them up and they're like, I've seen the comparison. Let me go back to the nice guy. Even though the Honda better, they'd still buy it for me because the experience was so much better. And as Mike said, I made a lot of money off the bad salespeople down the street. They set the standard low, and I just had to step over this very low bar.
Yeah.
If I may, I think Nancy's point and messages are really timely because during this challenging time, so many businesses are struggling. Now's the time to focus on your brand. Also, individually, just as Nancy said, not only can there be an effect about what your business is, but how you do it. Even for individuals, a challenging time, especially those who are out of work because of the pandemic. Now's the time to focus on who you are and how to articulate that, because there's such a direct correlation between who I am and being able to say "man." So, very good timing.
Yeah, very true. All right, so let's go on to our next topic, which is, let's see if I can get the right screen. Here we go. Oh, yeah, it's Mike with Mindset of the Entrepreneur and Battling Through Head Trash. So, take a few minutes and talk about, lead us off, and then we'll all jump in and share perspectives.
So I'm going to start off with a story. I am from Boston, and I'm sure you're shocked because you couldn't tell from my accent. But I am a hardcore Red Sox.
Yeah, I can see that.
I am a hardcore Red Sox fan and have followed them for years. And back in 2004, there was this momentous time where the Red Sox hadn't won a World Series in 86 years, and they go into the American League Championship Series against the arch rivals, and it even hurts me when I say this word, but the New York Yankees. And so they entered into this American League Championship Series, and the Yankees won the first 3 games. So it's the best out of 4. They won the first 3 games. And when they are starting game 4, they're back in Boston, and they're, all of the New York papers is like, they're done, the Dead Sox. It just was phenomenal. And then they were talking to one of the players, Kevin Millar. He was out right before the game. And the interviewer from Boston said, "So, Kevin, what do you think? No one has ever come back in the history of sports from 3 games to none, three games down." And Kevin Millar goes, "You know what? Let me tell you something, buddy." He said, "Don't let us win this game. Don't let us win this 4th game. Because if we win this 4th game, we got Pedro Martinez coming up. Then we got Kurt Schilling in game 6, and then you never know what can happen in a game 7. He said, "Don't let us win this game." What's the story? And this is my favorite story because it's the arch rival New York Yankees. And the Red Sox come back, and they beat the Yankees 4 games straight, win the American League Championship Series, go off and win the World Series. First time in 86 years. And then the New York papers wrote, "Hell freezes over." What's my point in all this? My point in all this is Kevin could have had his head down. The players could have had their head down. No one's ever done it in the history of sport, come back 3 games to none. But his mindset and his confidence and his swagger was one of those things that created a level of energy and excitement that carried his team through the American League Championship Series and into the World Series and eventually won it. So what do I do? What does this have to do with business? It has everything to do with business. I do talks oftentimes on mindset in head trash. And basically the journey of the entrepreneur is a lonely one. You are by yourself most of the time. You are come up with this. You have this passion. You have this energy. You have this excitement. You have this idea, and you start your business, and you create this product or service, and you take it out into the world, and you know everybody's going to absolutely love it. And then sometimes there's crickets, and then sometimes it doesn't work. And you have to do what every professional baseball player does. That's a hitter and is struck out 10 times in a row. You have to pick your butt up, and you have to get back at it. And the greatest entrepreneurs in the world are the ones that have figured out how to fight through adversity. They surround themselves with greatness. They have come up with strategies and tactics that allow them to not be down in the ultimate face of adversity, because entrepreneurship is an emotional and it's a financial roller coaster. There are times when it is so exciting, and there are times when it is so awful and challenging. And the ability to fight through that adversity, to continue to pump positive. I always say you got to pump in the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive. The people that you hang around with are so important to your journey, because if you hang around, and I love this saying, you can't fly with eagles if you're hanging with turkeys. And that is true in life. It's true in business. It's true in optimism. It was true with the Boston Red Sox and Kevin Millar. So I believe that even though we go through this journey as entrepreneurs, those that are running businesses, I believe we live in the world of this we play 3 movies simultaneously throughout our entrepreneurial journey. We have Heart Set, which is your friends, your family, your health, and your happiness. If you win that, you've won the sport of life. Then if you want to expand to that next level, you go into the mindset. Your mindset is what goes into your mind, what motivates you, what inspires you, goals and objectives, and what pushes you into action. You cannot push a rope. You need something so powerful to pull you forward. And then the third piece of the entrepreneurial journey is obviously the skill set. What is your product or service? Who's your target market? And what is your strategic marketing plan? And businesses can grow well beyond those 3 simple things. But my message to the entrepreneurial world, of whoever's listening, is if you fix the lump of coal and the thing, that the 10-pound thing or 6-pound thing that sits on your shoulders, if you focus on that first, your chances of success, your chances of winning are so much greater. The end.
That's definitely a good message for a lot of the people who are
sure.
Who are out there these days, especially. But I love that quote. Actually, even made a banner for it. You can't fly with eagles if you're hanging with turkeys. So true.
And you mentioned that thing, Mike, about businesses out there. This is one of the most gut-wrenching times in so many entrepreneurs' lives. You have a strategic plan, you put your goals and objectives for the year, you have your 3-year journey. Nowhere in anyone's strategic plan do you say, hey, I wonder if the government tells us we can no longer have customers. It doesn't. And I've had clients and friends and people that I know that have gone through this journey and they played the woe is me card. Oh, what am I going to do? I don't know how to, I'm just going to. And then I've had others that say, how do I reinvent myself? What else can I do? And I say that the time that someone needs other people in their lives as an entrepreneur is when your bathroom mirror is your board of advisors. You better invite someone else to the party, because it can be a difficult journey going through this alone. But it still ultimately comes down to what goes in. The old adage in the computer world: garbage in, garbage out. Yep. What goes in can be so powerful; it can be so poisonous.
Exactly.
Mike, have you looked into how would you describe what are those causes for why people do have those inner voices? When they're looking in the mirror, or if they're driving down the road, going for a walk, what's behind all that?
This is almost like this is a softball. You toss me the perfect pitch, because it's so hardcore to what I believe, and it's one of my presentations on how to master your mindset. face facts. We have zero control over our lives for the first 18 years. Zero. We can't control our parents. We can't control, did we grow up with money, in poverty? Was there alcoholism? Was there abuse? Was there divorce? Did you grow up in Manhattan or did you grow up in Mumbai? You have no control. Did your parents teach you about striving and shooting for the stars, or did they figure out how can you get by with the least amount of effort? So we go through this journey, and over those first 18 years, we have no control. Then we get out and we become adults, and you face these forks in life. You get to a left and a right. And when you face those forks, all of the stuff that's gone into your brain prior to that moment determines whether you take a left or a right. And so as you go through this thing called adulthood, we continue to have stuff that pumps into our brain. So as you're an entrepreneur, like, oh, you run a business. Well, you know what? There's a reality. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's gone into your brain prior to that moment. And so when you get into that moment and you're sitting there and it's been not such good stuff, there's been a lot of head trash, and you talk to that wonderful person in the mirror, the CEO of that organization, and you say, what should I do? You could have someone that says, you know what? Buckle up. Too bad. It's time to just figure out, what do I do next? So it's a great question, Rick, and I love it, because I think that we have to constantly be pumping in the good, the clean, the pure, and the powerful. And people that are watching this or attending Conference 21 are doing just that. And I applaud you for taking that risk and going out there and saying, you know what, I'm going to pump some good stuff in, because there's only one thing that's coming out of this event, and that's positive. So, great question.
Oh, excellent answer. And isn't it true that there are a few different levels of which those inner thoughts are working? There's the conscious level, subconscious, and unconscious level. But some of those lower level drivers are prone to keep us right where we are at.
Yep. And business owners need to not be thinking in the moment, but thinking of the future, and always be looking, not just embracing change, but seeking it out and looking for it and seeing what they can do to take their business to the next level. Their mindset cannot be stuck where they're at, even if they're successful, because they're keeping themselves from being more successful. And I think one of the biggest problems when people get into business for themselves is often they do it because they have a passion for something. Like they love to cook, so they open a restaurant. But they didn't get into business because they love to hire and train and fire and handle the bookkeeping and payroll and all of that. And business owners don't have to do it all themselves, although they think they do. So I think the other part of what you're saying in the mindset is get the mindset that there's other people out there that can do some tasks better than you. And if you hire the right person, they more than pay for themselves.
Amen.
Yeah, and I definitely learned through experience that kind of thing you're talking about with the restaurant. So one thing I'm doing recently is I'm partnered with another organization for my coaching that does the marketing for me. Now, I don't make as much as I would make being a coach myself and doing my own marketing and building my own personal brand and everything. I can still do that on the side, but it's a reliable, steady income. So it's almost more like having a job, but I didn't get into coaching so that I could run Facebook ad campaigns and set up talks and figure out programs. And I got into coaching to coach people. And so I figured out partnerships, why don't I partner with someone who knows how to market coaches, and I can coach and they can market. And to what Mike was saying, figure out those things, the things you want to do that you don't want to do, and where the strength is, and then focus in that direction and move in that direction, instead of trying to focus on what people are telling you where the right place is to go, but what's actually right for you. I think is huge how individualized it is.
And the other thing that Nancy just said, which is so true, and I use this analogy in every speech I give, and I say, just because you can bang a nail and hang a piece of sheetrock does not mean you can run a construction company. You may have passion for that. You may love that, but the business of business is totally different. oh, I can make the greatest Italian dish and I can pair it with the most perfect wine.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you can run a restaurant. And so there is, I've been through this journey so many times now. There's a skill set for the person to get to $100,000, and that's sweat and tears and energy. And always say when someone goes into business, I say, thank God you're an entrepreneur. You get to work half days now, and you get to pick which 12 hours those are. But the skill set to get to 100 grand is a lot different than to get to $500,000, to get to $1 million, to get to 5 million, to get to 10 million. Like Nancy was saying, you have this passion, but then you're like, oh, I got this other stuff. What's health insurance? What's an operations department? What's marketing and sales and finance? Like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for that. Mm-hmm. That's become, and I'll circle it right back to the thing called team. And we're going to be able to watch the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the Super Bowl this weekend because of their valiant leader and their coach, Tom Brady. As you can tell, I'm from Boston, and we still love him here, even though he is down south. But the point is, the team is the biggest difference. That's if you say, what's the one word between entrepreneurship and building a big business? Simple, four letters, team. Mm-hmm. If you haven't figured out how to grow that, build that, inspire your team, motivate them, and build a culture of winning. Not the dentist that, hey, I'm not going to call you. You build a culture of winning.
Right.
And even when you do all that, it doesn't mean you win. But that's a prerequisite.
Mm-hmm. It means you get in the league.
Yeah.
You can make it to the finals. You won't necessarily get the championship.
Amen.
And I think it brings another point, too, that not everyone needs to build $1 million company. When I first started coaching, I encountered a lot of coaches, some coaches who were kind of offended that I wasn't in it just for the money. Because with coaching, if you're focusing on one-on-one, you're limited because there's only so many hours you have. And if you want to really make money, at least what I've found, is it's where you get into courses and one-to-many and replicating yourself in different ways. And I find I really liked the one-to-one, which is why I basically ended up partnering with someone else so I can effectively work for them. But I talk to people who are like, if you're not shooting for $20,000 a month, then why even bother? You should just get out of coaching and wear yourself out, because they were focused on this one-to-many 10x multiplier, make giant piles of money. And some people, maybe they don't want to run a business, but they love doing carpentry. So maybe they should work for someone else, or they should understand their income might be limited to 40, 50, 60,000 a year, but they can be carpenters all the time if they don't try to build a team and buy 10 trucks and whatever. And kind of understand where their niche is. Maybe they want to work 30 hours a week, make 50,000 a year, and that would be their ideal life. And they don't need to be constantly growing their business 10% per year.
You couldn't tell a more powerful truth, Mike. And when I work with clients, we start with one thing. Let's design your dream business that is focused and aligned with your dream life. Because I've seen so many people do it the other way. They come up with this fancy ass business, and then they realize they don't know their children, and they're not connected to their spouse, and they don't have friends. They got money. That is awesome. I got money. But that's why when I say we go on the entrepreneur's trilogy, the first step in that journey is heart set. If you have great friends and family and great relationships, and you have your health, which is that one thing that we take for granted until it's taken away, and you have your happiness, you've won. Check. Done. But when you're not happy, it's like, so good point, Mike.
And you're both absolutely right, Michael and Mike. Because the one thing that I always say is, what is success to you? Because what's success to one company is not success to another. And even though you might say success is this dollar amount or this amount of hours a week or whatever, you may then find that what's necessary to make that happen, you're not willing to do, then maybe that's not what you really want. And you've got to come back to thinking it through as to what is success to you. And as business coaches, we all know that, because some businesses want to be multi-million and others just aren't willing to put the time and effort in to do it. And it's whatever success is to them, it's fine. But they need to understand it and own it.
Yeah, there's actually a great coaching technique I learned recently, which you can kind of apply to yourself, actually. And it's is basically to go down the rabbit hole of, if you get, what do you want? I want to make $1 million. If you made $1 million, what would that get you?
Right.
And then what would that get you? And what would that, and just keep going down. If I made $1 million, then I wouldn't have to worry about bills ever. Okay, if you didn't have to worry about bills ever, what would that get you? Time with my family. And if you had time with your family, what would that get you? A better relationship with my wife and kids. And if you have a better relationship with your wife and kids, what would that get you? Then I'd be happy. So you're going to work 90 hours a week to make $1 million? And then suddenly you're like, wait a minute, I could just spend time with my wife and kids and skip the $1 million step. I think a lot of people, and of course, in this entrepreneur venture capital culture, where the heroes put in front of us are the people who raise $100 million and build the Ubers and the Twitters and the Facebooks and the Amazons. Those are the heroes to be like. And I've even heard in some of the entrepreneur shows, they'll talk about you might fail to grow your business and becomes a lifestyle business. They say kind of right, like, well, I guess you could have a lifestyle business, it means a business you can make a living from, but that no one's going to become a billionaire with. That doesn't sound like a bad thing, but if you're in this venture capital mindset, you're like, oh, lifestyle business. All right, that's a good way to lose. But it's not losing, depending on what you're trying to do.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And this brings us to our third topic, which is Rick. And so, Rick, you had a slide you wanted to share?
Yeah, this is let me ask you to bear with me as I talk about basically going from angst to action. One of the things that I saw, and I'll talk as I'm trying to bring up my slide, back around after 9/11, and maybe you saw this, maybe you're seeing it now. And just as Mike was talking about a mindset, I'm going to expand it just a bit to talk about the whole person approach to how people react to going through a difficult time. I remember facilitating a group for a number of years with some business leaders and individuals who are going through different kinds of transitions, and they're all experiencing challenges. Some portion of them were absolutely frozen. They couldn't pick up the phone. They couldn't make a decision. They were really struggling. And maybe you're seeing some of that now with people that you know. Maybe you're experiencing yourself. So what I did was apply some different things to take a look at what could help them. And I'm a communication specialist, so I was thinking, all right, what can I possibly communicate? How much can listening play a role? Here's what I found started working then. And especially now, I'm actually hearing, especially since last March, so many people who are frozen. They're struggling with their sense of self, their identity, their brand, just as Nancy was talking about. And this is one thing that's helped, and maybe it can help you or someone that you know. And let me just click on, I'm going to share my screen. This is a brand new time of my using this tool. Share screen sharing with at least 2 monitors. Let me try this one. I'm going to see which works here. Application window. Here we go.
We're all trying this together.
How's this?
I got to add that to the stream. And that, oh, no, that's just me.
Hopefully you'll see this sales says plan to be your best as you navigate change. Let me know.
There it is.
Very good. So based on this quote by Dale Carnegie, inaction breeds doubt and fear, and action breeds confidence and courage. With that thought in mind, how to go from angst to action. When I sit down with a client, or virtually or in person, through the years, and especially it's being helpful now, to go through this 5-step process that ends up going from angst to action, helping someone deal with their thoughts, their ideas, and their emotions. Even business leaders experience this, where they will get to a point where sometimes I've even seen some that don't want to even talk about what's going on. But the first step to take is to actually validate those thoughts and those feelings. And in the course of the meeting, and this can take anywhere from a few minutes to maybe a half an hour or so, spend some time validating. But then as you can, when you see the opening, refocus on the goals. State them. Sometimes it is simply just a statement. And then spend a little bit more time on reviewing the strategies. Here are the different ways, our approach to achieving those goals. But what really happens when there's magic at work is when you start talking about ideas and making decisions. When there's elevated cortisol during stressful times like right now, that inhibits our ability to think clearly and to make decisions. And so when you spend time thinking about and encouraging someone, asking open-ended questions, and doing a lot of active listening to your client or to a family member or a friend, listen to their ideas and decisions, and it moves to doing one thing wonderfully. You'll see it. It creates energy. And from energy, you can then move into action. These 5 steps have actually played a vital role in helping a number of people deal with this pandemic and this very, very difficult time. I must admit, going into my 6th knee operation back 22 years ago, I was getting a total knee replacement. I started practicing in this on myself when I needed to deal with extensive chronic pain, and then get back into PT or doing action. The worst thing to do when in pain or dealing with a difficult situation is not to be action oriented. The same thing with going through my 7th knee operation about a year and a half ago. It's absolutely essential. But those 5 steps have been critical to doing exactly that. Go from validating to coming up with ideas on what to do and then taking action steps. So I thought I'd raise that up. I'd like to think that based on what Nancy and Mike were talking about, this is a practical step that could add to the whole conversation.
I think one of the big things you said that really is the bottom line is to have a system and to work through it and use it on a regular basis once you've come up with a system that works. And you've found a system that you've proven works, but a lot of companies fly by the seat of their pants and they need to have a system.
And I can relate to that, Nancy. I grew up a planning rebel.
Me too.
My dad, fantastic guy, but he would always say, I remember being, even in my youth, all right, Ricky, it's time to polish your shoes. But as I'm going down the basement stairs to the equipment with the polish and the brush, he says, just make sure you have a plan for that. Saturday morning, Rick, time to go wash the cars. Make sure you have a plan for that. Start from the top and work your way down. By the time I was 15 years old, I was the biggest planning rebel that you could ever see. And then now, lo and behold,
and now what goes around comes around.
Right. Thank God.
They plant that seed; it comes out later.
I found early in my career that there's, especially during challenging times, when you can pinpoint that goal, identify ways to achieve it, and then take action. And whenever there's a hiccup in the process, such as a time like now, planning creates energy, and it's what helps us get through challenging times.
I think what we'd all agree on is also too many businesses spend all their time working in the business and not taking time out to focus on all the things we're talking about, to get them to the next level, to actually have in their schedule booked times where they don't see clients, they don't see staff, they don't do anything but work on the business and do some of the things that we're all trying to teach them.
Have you ever experienced how a little bit of planning makes everything run more fluid, more efficient?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, and it's funny. I always use the saying, or I always use the recommendation with my clients or any speech I give. It's planning is essential, but plans are useless. And what do you mean by that? Well, what you mean by that is if you're running a business, then you have to be prepared to anticipate. You have to be prepared for those things that are unanticipated. Right. Like we talked about earlier, nobody told the cruise line industry that they could not put their boat in the water for a year, and it's going to be more than a year. You know,
right.
Nobody told the wedding planners and the companies that have these venues that they could not have an event for a year. And so it's like the planning is essential, but the entrepreneurs really need to be ready to pivot on top of their plans. So I think we're all talking around the same thing. Planning is so important, but also, in working in your business and not as much in and more on and all that else, but it's like, be prepared to pivot and be prepared to get punched in the mouth. And one of my slides I have in my mindset presentation is like, just like what Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why setting time in your schedule for ongoing planning is so critical, because you need to be able to edit and adjust as you go. You need to be flexible and not be stuck with that plan, but it's a working document, a changing document, a working system, a changing system, and that you're always prepared.
And Rick made a great point about the cortisol levels are up and like you lose that creativity, because we're evolved to sometimes, when you're in the movement, when the lion's coming at you, you're not worried about, when should we plant the crops next spring? You need to not be eaten by the lion right now. You need to get out of that lion mode and get to the, I wrote an article a while ago. I talked about the idea of splitting yourself into the architect and the bricklayer. Sometimes you're laying bricks, sometimes you're drawing plans. While you're laying bricks, you're not drawing plans. You can't do them at the same time, and you have to have that time and separate. And I ran into that sort of inadvertently. Sunday night was my time to do my planning for the week. And then when I realized that none of my plans were going to generate revenue for 3 months and I needed to do something, so I started driving Uber Eats to fill in the gap. It didn't occur to me that I overwrote my Sunday planning time with immediate revenue generation time. And 3 weeks later, I'm like, why do I feel like I'm just lost at sea? Oh, because I haven't planned in 3 weeks, and it was a weekly plan. But on the other hand, what I found when I started going out and just, because Uber Eats is like one of the easiest jobs in the world. You drive your car, you listen to books, audiobooks and podcasts, and you do what your computer tells you. And it's like 17, 18 bucks an hour. It's not going to make you rich, but it's a nice quiet time. And I'd suddenly have all these generative thoughts that I hadn't been having for weeks, because I'm sitting in front of the computer. I'm like, okay, what's next? What's on the to-do list? What do I need to do?
Because you have downtime
like
to think.
Yeah. I'm driving around, and you need to make sure you have that, whether it's, a mindless side gig or reading or going to the beach or jogging, exercise, whatever it is, you have to make sure and realize that downtime is part of the process. When a race car pulls into the pit, that's not leaving the race. That is part of the race. You don't pit. You don't cross the finish line. So if you don't take that time to clear your head, then you're going to execute the same plan, generally a worse photocopy of it each week, until you finally run out of gas. Your engine seizes up. So you got to take that time.
You so validated so many things with that, Mike. And this thing that sits on top of our shoulders is, when you sit back and grasp the power of it, every single thing that exists in our life was once the idea in the mind of one person. And I know that a few years ago, I adopted something, and maybe it's a benefit for the attendees, but I adopted a morning routine, and I am religious with this. And it's a compilation of, I do some crazy ass stuff in the morning. I jump into a 32-degree shower, but my point is, and there's one reason I do that. And the reason I do that is because it requires zero physical talent or skill. It requires 100% mindset. And, when my pool gets opened up in New England in April and I'm jumping in at 34 degrees, it doesn't require any skill. It requires a crazy person. But I'm digressing. My point is, part of my morning routine is there's meditation, there's gratitude practice, there's prayer for those people that are in my life that are going through difficult times. There's visualization of my day. And then there is, the mantras that I say to myself. So the quiet time and the downtime, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah.
Like Rick was saying about the cortisol and the energy and the levels. I found myself, now I ain't perfect. I'm going to be the first to admit it. My wife will tell you that, yeah, he's still whacked. But I'm a better person. I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm a better leader. I'm a better entrepreneur because I figured out a way to carve out quiet time, to take care and rest. Like the race car analogy is so appropriate. You take it and you rest it. Let that thing just rest for a while, because once we get out of that, game on. It's like game on. So
sets the tone for the whole day, and every day you're doing the P in plan is for prepare. And actually, the author of Don Quixote, I think it was, who said, "To be prepared is half the victory." So starting your day like that is you've halfway won the day. That's excellent, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
I got to ask you about that jumping into the cold shower. Who's the Norwegian fellow, Hoff? Wim Hof. You're familiar with him?
Yeah. It's is it whacked? Yeah. It's not normal. It's like, but the reason I do it is, and there are physical benefits. When I've studied the science, there are physical benefits that happens. I don't do it for the physical benefits. I do it for the fact that it requires zero skill, and I get to win the first decision of the day. I win it. It's like I can win or I lose. And it's like, is it a difficult thing to do? In New England, when there's 1.5 feet of snow and you're on the 3rd floor and it takes 60 seconds for the warm water to get up there. Yeah, you're damn right. It's hard and it's crazy, but
very healthy though. Very healthy.
Well, and actually along those lines, something I started doing, and obviously it's not going to work when the summer comes, but my driveway is 2 cars long, and they leave the newspaper at the end of it. So what I'll do in the morning, I put my bathrobe on, barefoot, run out and get the paper and come back. Because I can't bring myself to do the whole cold shower thing. But it's kind of the same thing. It's when it's 29 degrees outside and you're running out. Like when I come back, I'm awake. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm getting that paper. I'm running out there. I'm running across the cold concrete. They usually leave it across, halfway into the gravel driveway. So across the cold concrete, across the gravel, pick it up, get back in. And, now I've basically had to sprint and been very cold, and it got my body going. So I'm out of that it's morning. You can't be.
They still have newspapers. I didn't know they had newspapers anymore.
I subscribe and read it every day, actually. Yeah, we have one of the few good independent newspapers called The Day down here in Southeast Connecticut, and it's actually owned by a trust fund, so it can't be sold. So Tribune and all those newspaper aggregators can't buy it. Which means it's forced to stay local. It's got a local newsroom and it's not a huge newsroom, but they get some good local coverage and it's a great. Yeah, we're lucky that we still have that here. It is worth running across some cold concrete to pick up that paper. So it's definitely
that's cool.
What time in the morning do you do that? I'll come out with a camera.
Usually at 8:30.
Okay, I'll remember that.
I should set up a camera for that sometime. Stage it. But yeah, and one thing I was going to mention. So my wife is awesome for many reasons, but one of them is that she's very focused on helping other people. But something I have to remind her is that if she doesn't take care of herself, if she's focused on taking care of me and our daughter and her parents and the house and everything, but doesn't take care of her health and doesn't take care of her mindset and makes herself sick or crazy, she can't help anyone. And I've said that in my motivational podcast recently, that you're the most important thing in any project you're in. So if you're doing something and you fall apart, and especially if you fall apart because you're so indispensable you can't take a day off. Well, if you're too indispensable to take a day off, you're definitely too indispensable to go down for a week. So you got to take care of yourself before, as my mother used to say, sit down before you fall down.
Well, you know what? It's interesting because, as part of my entrepreneur's trilogy, and I talk about heart set, and health is that one thing that we take for granted until it's taken away from us. And, I have been in the fitness product and health club industry for 30 years. And it fascinates me the number of times I've been to trade shows and events, and these people are walking around and they are so out of shape, but yet they're marketing these products and their business is doing really great. And I'm like, I had a buddy drop dead at 48 years old, just successful in business.
And even just in the last year with COVID,
Yeah.
You know, what your health was prior to
Amen.
getting it had a lot to do with what the outcome was going to be.
Amen.
I was
So,
impressed with that. Did you all see that one comment from one of a very fine real estate company? Someone typed in about how they're providing mental health to their agents. I just want to applaud that. I think, you know, it's a whole person experience to
Right.
navigate at these times. So take a whole person approach as leaders and for everyone else too.
Right.
Mental health, spiritual, emotional. Absolutely. That's so good.
And that's also where the planning comes in, that you have backup so your people can be home with their family when they need to be, and that you have backup and you have other ways of getting the work done.
Yeah.
And it's just good business. You know, if your people are too exhausted and say, oh, I can't do real estate anymore, it's too stressful, and they quit, well, all the money you put into them, all the resources you put into them just walked out the door. So it's not just, you know, a good thing to do. It's a good profitable thing to do.
Business.
Yep. And so this little timer in the corner tells me that we have reached the end of an hour, which has been an awesome hour. I'm so excited we've done this. It's been a lot of fun. This is even more fun than I hoped it would be, and I hope it'd be lots of fn. So I'm so glad we did this. For anyone who's watching, actually, we still have viewers too. Look at that. We held viewers for an entire hour. Great. So we're going to quickly go around the room, get final thoughts. But before we do that, so I'll say it's going to be every Friday at 2:00 Eastern time. And you can always catch the replay on the Conference21 YouTube channel, the Conference21 Facebook page. And it looks like I forgot to put it out on Twitter, but there's a Conference21 Twitter, which is at Conference21Con, because somebody already got at Conference21. Jerks, I'll get them. But Facebook is facebook.com/Conference21. So we got that one. But this has been lots and lots of fun, and just getting to host this show is making Conference21 worth all the effort to put together. So this is great. But yeah, so quickly we'll go around, final thoughts, and then I will let you go on your way. So we'll go the opposite direction. We'll start with Mike. What are your final wrap-up thoughts?
Yeah, you know, the theme of the day has revolved around the lump that sits on our shoulders. It's really fascinating that, you know, as we you know, the experience that each of you have lends so much to this journey that we're all on. And you know, I'm super excited, Mike, for this event. I think you've done a fantastic job of planning and organizing and pulling together some really remarkable speakers. And this is going to be a fantastic event. So congrats, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Nancy?
Ditto with everything Mike just said. I don't know where else any business owner can go and pick and choose over 2 days, 32 speakers on topics that interest them and will help them take their business to the next level for a measly $21. I mean, where do you even get that? And I've always said, I mean, after being in business for 40 years, when I go to any conference or any meeting, if I can come away with one idea that I will actually implement that's going to make a difference, it was worth my time and my money, no matter what it costs. So for $21 for 2 days of 32 speakers, I don't know how it would be possible to not get at least one thing, and probably a whole heck of a lot more. So I think all the speakers I've met so far are amazing. And thanks, Mike, for putting this together.
Well, and that's with so many great speakers. Even if we didn't sell any tickets, the speakers get to meet each other, and it's going to be a great event.
Right.
And then you buy a ticket, you get into that party. And one quick thing I want to add: some people tell me, like, I don't go to events on weekends, I can't make it, whatever. The talks are going to be recorded, so even if you can't attend any of the talks, you could get a ticket, which will give you access to the talks after the fact. So, of course, it's always better to be live, but yes, that's something to consider as well. And Rick, your final words.
First of all, thank you very much, Michael. Also, Mike and Nancy, thank you for your thoughts. This has been an absolute pleasure and a joy. There are two themes that seem to surface for me throughout our conversation. One is that you are not alone. These are challenging times, and there are people and experts for you. No one is meant to actually go through anything by themselves. So whether it's anyone you know or however we can be of help. You're not alone. And secondly, this is the time to be bold in honesty and being real. We've touched on the reality of how there's the importance of mindset because we have these inner conversations. We need to be real about how do we communicate and how do we, especially businesses and professionals, brand ourselves and our businesses. But it's a wonderful time, and I hope this is one of the lasting shining lights, if you will, or what's the phrase? With a cloud, a silver lining, is that we're all the more honest and real with each other. So thank you very much.
Fantastic thought to leave with. I want to thank our major sponsor, AmSpirit, got right here, who was one of our first sponsors. They're sponsoring our keynote speaker, Matt Ward, and a great organization. And thank you to Rick and Nancy and Mike for being the guinea pigs on the first event. I think this went pretty well. Nothing caught fire. We were able to share the screen. We were able to hear everyone. It all worked pretty well. And we got I see some likes up there in the corner. Got some comments. So I think it worked. Success. Good job.
Well
so thanks
done.
everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all on future Fridays. And of course, Conference 21, which is only 2 weeks away. Exactly 2 weeks. Will be the 19th, which will be both the first day of Conference 21 and my birthday. So what better way to celebrate your birthday than running a conference? Well, thank you all for joining me. This has been fantastic and so much fun. And I hope that our viewers at home have learned a lot from it. And I should probably have some sign-off phrase now, but I don't. So have a great week,
We'll have
everyone.
to come up with one for next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye, everybody.
I'm White House, and I don't have a sign-off phrase.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Bye-bye now.